During the First World War, it became quickly apparent that heavy vehicles would be needed to break the stalemate of trench warfare. The Mark I, also known as the land ship, entered service in August 1916. It first saw action on the 15th of September that very same year during the Battle of Flores Corset. After the battle, their strength and effectiveness was seen by all. Tanks quickly became an integral part of modern combat. After World War II, tanks remained relatively unchanged, symbolising their combat effectiveness, but by the time of the resource crisis, which perhaps is a topic for another day, tanks were fast becoming less and less cost effective. August 2065 was when the US government would start the development of a replacement. It would have to be small, relatively agile, and be able to pack an equal amount of firepower, but most importantly, it had to be less resource heavy. Thus, powered combat infantry armour was born. In spite of many setbacks, Westech revealed the first of many innovations the project would create. The TX-28 microfusion cell would be revealed to the world in the summer of 2066. The fusion cell was capable of generating up to 60,000 watts. In the winter of 2066, China invaded Alaska, starting the Sino-American War. But it wasn't until 2067 that units equipped with power armor were sent to the front lines to push back against the Chinese aggressors. This model was designated the T-45. The model had many problems, such as an alarming power consumption rate. However, thanks to extensive field testing, many of the problems were fixed in later models of T-45. Not much is known about the T-45's armor plating. However, what we do know is that it is made out of steel. Therefore, we can assume that it is made out of level 4 ballistic steel. We can assume this because of the role that power armor units are supposed to fill in battle, which is the equivalent of tanks and other heavy vehicles. T-45's armor plating fits onto a universal frame, allowing for different models of power armor to fit onto the same frame. However, it is unclear how many post-war variants utilize this frame. In spite of its shortcomings, the T-45 stabilized the Alaskan front, thus proving that power armor is a crucial part of any military faction, pre or post-war. To keep adding to the list of achievements underneath the T-45's belt, the MP-47A prototype medic power armor was a prototype T-45. It closely resembled a T-45D on the surface, but it was no ordinary T-45D. It could administer medics to the user and surrounding troops. As well as administering medics to the user, it also featured an onboard voice module, which would sound alerts if it detected an enemy presence. Later power armor frames would only keep the ability to inject chems to the user. By 2069, Westech had secured a new contract for the development of power armor. This contract would help secure enough resources for the development of the T-51 line, and would also become the largest military contract from the largest military contractor. Unlike the T-45, the T-51's armor is made out of a polylaminate composite, which is also coated in a 10 micron thick silver ablative layer, which allows for the reflecting of laser blasts and radiation emissions without damaging the composite's surface directly. Composite is capable of absorbing over 2.5 kilojoules of energy without damage. To cap it off, the organic design of the armor helps to deflect incoming projectiles. All T-51 helmets come with a drop-down aiming ocular and a forehead-mounted lamp as standard issue. During its development at Fort Strong, users would keep losing their balance over rough terrain. To solve this issue, high-flow hydraulics, gyroscopic stabilizers, and shock absorbers were integrated into the universal frame. Doing this allows the suit to carry the bulk of the weight, which means that soldiers can carry heavier weapons into battle. The gyroscopic stabilizers and shock absorbers would fix the fall-in problem as well. For optimal performance, the armor has to be custom fitted to the user's body. June 2076, T-51 units were sent to China, where they quickly overcame the People's Liberation Army. 1 year later, General Constantine Chase used the T-51Bs to maximum effectiveness in the reclamation of Anchorage. This coincided with the introduction of the T-60 series of power armor. Originally just another model of T-45, the T-60 eventually became its own series after the US government decided that it was significantly different enough to the T-45. It was developed as a supplement to the hard-to-make T-51s. However, it was predominantly deployed in domestic environments instead of the front lines. The T-60 was also the last series of power armor to be mass-produced. Not much is known about the T-65. What we do know is that it had radically different protection principles to previous series of power armor. It had separate pieces of armor stacked on top of each other, which led to a more consistently armored suit over other series using a whole cast armor system. The only known place where T-65 was deployed was by the Secret Service at Vault 79. EX-17, or excavator power armor, is the only suit of power armor intended for civilian use. Developed by Garium Mining Co., the suit was intended to help human miners compete with the ever-growing threat of robots taking their jobs. But when Holmright Mining Co. brought out Garium Mining Co., the suit of armor was discontinued, and production ceased. The X-Series was supposed to replace the T-Series, however, the X-Series only developed one suit of power armor, the X-01. Its design philosophies were radically different to the T-Series of armor. Although technically functional by late 2077, there was still a significant amount of problems inhibiting mass production. The armor was made out of a strontium-90 based armor plating, but this improvement was not adopted by the armor's schematics before the bombs dropped. After the Great War, power armor was one of a handful of technologies that were developed by post-war factions. The main innovator was the Enclave. The Enclave was a faction that was formed before the Great War. It was composed of high-ranking US officials like the President, who had survived the nuclear holocaust